Hey guys, Kelly here. Let's paint a beginner-friendly winter watercolor tree. Now this one has no sketch. This one is perfect for that loose, simple, just want to sit down and paint something, soft little snowy trees. But before we jump in, go ahead and hit that like button if you enjoy these calm winter studies, and make sure you hit the subscribe bell. That's that little bell, little red one, so you don't miss the next one. And I'm just curious, do you guys prefer painting winter scenes like this, or are you leaning more towards brighter colors? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing what you all enjoy.
All right, my friend. So I did this one and I'm going to show you how I did it. Now, I tried on a couple different papers. In this case, really does make a difference. There's a lot of texture in this one. I don't know if you can see that, little ripples, but these are cute little cards that I did pick up on Amazon. It was $27 for 50 of them, and you get 25 cards plus 25 envelopes. They're fun probably to play with. They are acid free, but as far as quality, and you can even see the texture in the picture that they show on here. Again, it's fun. I thought I'd try them for you. They're okay. I might use these actually if I wanted to cut out instead of painting on it directly, maybe cut it out and use it that way. But again, for practice, it's still not too bad, but it just doesn't blend the way the Fabriano paper blends or Arches. My other option was this one here that I got in, and again, this one comes with 50. Now these are not cards, they're called postcards, but they're actually just basically 5x7 sheets of paper. So it kind of reminds me of the Strathmore watercolor cards in a lot of ways, but you do get 50 of them, and you do get envelopes with this one as well. These I did like, and I will link them below for you, for great for practice pieces. And it reminded me a lot of the Strathmore watercolor cards. I did some scratch work in there. The background's a lot darker on this one. I used to use a bokeh effect on it as well. But my favorite was on the Fabriano paper. So that's what I'm going to share with you on here today. And I do have a couple more different types of paper coming that I'm going to try, because I've had some students recommend it and they loved it. So it was on sale for like $7.99. So I'm going to be getting some others in to test out to see. The difference between this one is because it holds so much water and it holds it nicely, and you can see how soft the edges are here. They're a little crisper here because I used wet on dry. This is all wet, so it just burst really nicely on the paper. And this one is super simple to do. So we're going to use the Fabriano paper. I'm going to be using my Princeton number 8. And for the details, I'm going to be using a number 1. This is a Sable Synthetic by Winsor Newton. So it's got a nice looseness to it. So these longer type brushes, skinnier brushes, are really nice for some of these little straggler brushes, or stragglers of pine boughs that stick out. You know what I mean? This stuff up here. Okay, so we're going to start with the background. Now this is no sketch, and I have my rows of paints here. So for colors, I just want a soft, kind of a grayish green blue. And I've kind of just take mud that I've made up in here. So I have purple, green, some brown, and you can see I get a nice gray just from that. I could do the same thing with this one. So it's kind of greens and purples or blacks with a little blue. That one's got a little bit more green in it, as you can see. It's not going to matter. Nice dark green, maybe a little ultramarine blue. So I got a nice green there. This one's more purpley. So I'm going to add a little bit more of the black. Now this black is a grape black, so it has some purple tones in it anyway. And then I want it really, really light. So I'm going to rinse that brush off because I don't want a lot of pigment. And I'm going to start by wetting the paper. So I like to wet it just kind of down here. And I might just get a little color just so you can see it. That's a lot of color. So this is my little hill. So I need to keep all of this wet. So I'm going to take my brush and just wet all of this in. And I'm going to come right up to the top of this. I want to have everything wet because I want nice soft lines. I did have a little bit of a hard edge on that one that I showed you. It looks nice though. Really no right or wrong. So everything is wet in there. And this is kind of a timing thing. So as you learn the difference between your dry times on your paper, and it's hard to judge because every paper is different. So I'm going to tip that up. You can see where it started to dry in some areas. So I want to keep this nice and wet. I don't want it super runny, like it's not really moving a whole lot. If I tip that upside down, you can see where I have that line and it's slightly moving, but it has a gloss to it. And that's what we want. So depending on what your paper is, you might want to tape it down so it doesn't ripple on you. So now I'm going to go in with some of this gray, and I'm just going to come up, and that seems a little dark, so I'm going to add more water to it, maybe a little green. And I'm going to mix the colors right on the paper. I want to keep it light. That's the key to this one. So I'm going to even take more water. And I'm just going to spread out what I have here. And that's going to give you that really soft looking loose background of some trees kind of tucked in behind there. You can see how fast that starts to dry. And each time I do this, I might go in with a little bit more color because again, it's very wet here now. A little green in there. And then you can see that nice bloom that's making. That's what I want. I want this to move around and be very soft in the background. I can tip it up, do a little tilting. See how these will all feather out and it makes it really, really soft? That's kind of what I'm looking for.
And notice I'm not going all the way up to the top. I'm leaving the white of the paper back there. And that's going to look like maybe a soft kind of gray sky because some of that color has moved up into that area. It's not bright, bright white, but it gives it that nice glow.
A nice little hill I've got going on here. I might come over here just a little bit more. I do have a little defined line there, but we're going to cover that with some snow and some other little grass structures. So I like to do this in this step. I like to do the background first, and you can kind of babysit it because as I sit here, I mean, this is really pretty. I might want to add in a little more green in here. It's still wet. So I can do that while it's still wet and things are still going to move around. Now, if you start to get streaks, that's telling you that it is starting to dry and you want to stop at that point. So I get a couple tops of trees in here while I'm at it. And this is just kind of that playtime. Like, see, look, it's dry up here. So I don't want to have too much definition in there. I'm just going to soften some of that with a little bit of clean water. Okay, now it looks kind of cloudy back in here, but it's soft. A couple little clouds in the background. And again, I don't want to overdo anything. That's starting to dry so I can get some texture in there. So I'm going to leave it just like that. It's kind of a silhouette way back in there. So I'm going to dry this and then we'll come back and we'll do some details over the top of that. Okay, so this is all dry now. And again, don't worry too much about your background. You just want it fairly light, but you don't want it so light that you're not going to be able to see that snow on the top of it. So that is pretty close to what we had going on there. And again, this background is going to do its own thing, very organic. Just let it kind of dry and don't work it too much. All right, so the next step we want to do is some very soft background trees. So we're using that same color. I want to have it darker than the background, but not super dark because I want it to look like it is the next layer. If you look at these, they're still kind of light back in here. They're not quite as dark as this one up front. So kind of a mixture of the two. Adding a little water. And let's just test out those two colors together. Again, this is very, very light and watery. So I can come in here, maybe make a few little grass marks. And I'm using that skinny little brush. And if you hold it up here, if you have a hard time with, where you want to just do like a blade of grass and it looks fat, it doesn't look loose or organic, Try not to hold it here like you do a pen. Hold it back up here and just do like a flicking motion. Turn it different directions. Okay, and just flick it with some color. Go in a little darker now. Just get a few. Again, more at the base of that, so you can give yourself some natural shadows right on the underneath of those. Okay, you can even take your brush sideways and just scratch it up. Again, give it some texture in there. I'm going to leave the space more in the center here for our big tree. And then we could do the same thing. Just putting a couple little lines in here. Let's bring it up a little taller. So this is some trees that you might have in the background. So see, they're very similar to in color. They're not too dark. They're not super light. And you can kind of make them messy, again, kind of scribbling around. Maybe we have another one here. Okay, again, making those little branches very messy. And I'm going to do another one back here. So see how light they are? They're not really strong pigment. Again, it's very watery, but darker or a different color than that background because you want them to pop out. Okay, so we'll do some more shadows on the underneath of the snow. We'll do some more down here, but right now we want to start with our tree, our big focal point. So we're going to use that same black, get in some of that green, kind of a green brown. I don't know what color I've got going on there. There we go, kind of an olivey green. And I like to mix those colors, greens, blacks, browns, all different values. I like to have blue in there. And you can always have a little test sheet of paper on the side, but I'm going to be working all of these colors, but that's nice and dark. And I think that's going to show up nicely with some snow. So for this tree, we're going to start again at the tippy top here. Okay, these are a little different than what I usually do. So usually I'm left to the right like I do these, but for this one, we're just going to bring out a couple of branches and we're going to go upright. And I'm going to tuck them in here. And as I come down, skipping those areas because that's where the snow is going to be. Very similar to a snow-covered tree video that was up a few weeks ago. So if you haven't watched that one, check that one out. We've been doing a lot of snow and trees lately. So as this gets a little bit wider, as we come down here, we've got maybe some that are in the center here too, and out. And very random, just some lines. They're very loose, squiggly, just some branches. And this is going to be quite haphazard. These are not perfect. Does that look like a tree yet? Not quite. Maybe the outline of one. And then we're going to come down in here and we're going to get a little messier. Maybe a little more blue. Change that up a little bit more. Okay. And then we have some underneath. Again, scratching technique. Okay, pretty simple. So it's just like the illusion of that tree that's in there. So now we're going to grab our bleed proof white and we're going to make this one a little softer than what we usually do with our bleed proof white. So I'm going to dip that small brush in there. And if it's easier to use a big brush, use a big brush. We could probably try both ways here. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to drop in some of that snow. I want to keep it wet because we're going to add some color to it after. So maybe right on the tippy tops of those, covering some of those. I'm going to get messy down in here where that snow is going to be a little thicker. And you can see how messy I get with this. And I want it wet. I want this gouache to be softer than what I usually have it. Because before that dries, I'm gonna go in, again with the same color, maybe a little bit more blue, and I'm gonna drop in some of that in there as some shadows. Okay, mix it all together. If it's too blue, I might add a little bit more green to this. Oops, got a little spot on there. We'll make that some snow afterward, or some branches. So again, just a few little tucks in here, even maybe a little brown. I love the browns and the blues together, so that dark color down underneath. Let's add that together. Again, it's looking a little bit more too green. I want deep colors in there. Okay, and then can I add more? Get a nice little watery mixture, and we're gonna come in. This is the reflection, more water. The reflection in on the snow. So this could be green, it could be more blues, it could be more browns, just depends on, you know, some of the colors that you like. And I'm just gonna, again, just smush it in there. Nice little shadow. More water, just soften some of that. So I feel like the white is just not quite bright enough now. So I'm gonna go in again. It's all still wet, and we're gonna soften some of that. Let's just move it around in there. A little bit softer underneath. A little shadow in here. You can kind of extend that out a little bit more if you want, more snow. And as we start to lose some of that, don't worry about it, because we're gonna put in a few more branches once that dries. Let's go a little heavier on here. So I kind of bounce back and forth with that a little bit. And I don't even wait, actually. Let's not even wait till that dries, because we've got, this is all dry out here. So let's just go in with a few more branches. Little upright. Okay, these are very straggly. That's the best way to describe them. Okay, they're kind of tucked in. Maybe a little bit more blue. We can tuck in some out here. See how that just softens? Maybe we have some in the middle here. Let's fill in the center of that tree just a tiny bit. And every time I do these, they're just a little bit different. They're not gonna all be the same. And I'll kind of bounce back and forth, just see where, you know, where do I want more snow? Where is it too much? I might get a little muddy in through here, so I might have to clean some of this up a tiny bit. Let's just add some more snow in there so it looks like it's got more. Okay. And now I'm gonna go down in the bottom. So I have a little dot down here, so let's just make some grass. Again, using those same colors, the browns, the blues, and you just kind of keep them within that same color scheme. So again, just some little light marks. Maybe we have the shadow underneath. So again, let's just drag that across. Tad bit more blue in there. I like that. The other one was a little bit more blue. This one is more browns and greens. We can even do a couple of tall little sprigs. And you don't want to get too overboard with it. And then we could do some more darker ones over in here. So yeah, that just kind of pops out. And the ones behind it look like they're further away. So I'm going to dry this and decide if I need to do any more. I've got that one little dot there. Really not a big deal. We could probably put gouache over it, but I'm just going to wet it with some clean water. See if we can soften it just a little bit. Okay, so I think I'm going to just do a little bit more of the white in there just to brighten things up. We're going to put some snow on it in a second, some splatter. But let's just do a little bit more bright white in there. Got a little muddied in there a little bit. There. We don't need a whole lot because we're going to do the next step, which we're going to do some splatter. And I'm going to use the small brush for that one again. Dig it in there. Again, go around in the cap. That's always my favorite way of doing it. So you can see it again. So it's almost like the consistency of house paint. Maybe a little bit, almost like milk. Some I've heard a bunch of artists talk about milk, tea, coffee. So this might be more cream, like a heavy cream maybe. And then we're just going to tap and drop that little bit of snow in there. You might have to reload. And then I like to put just a few big snowflakes in there. Just random. These ones might be up close. Can even put some on in the tree here. Just like that. And we can even do a little bit, maybe we got a little snow pile going on top of here a little bit. So again, just a couple little branches sticking out. Very loose. Can even come up here, do a little bit more taller. Okay, that's the key, is we want not perfection, we want a little inconsistency on this one. I think it's just cute like that. Maybe a little bit more dark in here. Again, underneath or in the center there is where the light's not going to hit quite as much. So that's where you can add some darkness. Ooh, that might be a little too dark, but that's all right. Remember, it's all about play, having fun. Let's bring another branch out. You can always soften it if you feel it's too dark. And bounce back and forth with the white if you have to. Again, loose, fun. I think that one's close. I might have overworked this one a little bit more than this one's a little looser, but and maybe a little bit more blue in this one. So you can kind of play around with the colors too, see what colors you like best. And your background's always going to turn out different. This one I put back in where it started to dry, so you can see I have some edges on that one, which looks like a cloud back there to me. And this one is much softer. So it's just about playing. Each one of them is going to be a little bit more unique and different, and that is part of the fun.
A Patreon membership also makes for a thoughtful gift for anyone who loves watercolor, or even for yourself if you've been hanging out on the free version. You get access to the full-length tutorials, the bonuses, the paint-alongs, behind-the-scenes stuff that I don't share anywhere else. Consider joining us over there. It's a great community. I'll have the link down below for you.